Viscera, how's it going? The night is going well. I was just, you know, I got dinner started a little later than I should have. Miscalculation on my part. Nothing too crazy though, so whatever. How's your night going? Going well, I hope. I feel like her head is too. Yeah. I know the last couple weeks have been a bit hectic. We're gonna have to place her hair strategically. By the way. But she does have very long hair, so totally doable. And hopefully we can do it without making things feel too forced. Oh, I might want to turn her body a bit. I don't want her body facing us quite that much. Hello, Burger. This is a completely random sketch. Not of a random character per se, but I was not originally going to do pencils tonight. So this is not actually anything that I mentioned before. I'm trying to think. I know I posted her on Instagram at one point, but it was quite a while ago. Let's see if we can find. It was originally like before Spiridon thankfully talked me into redoing my cover. I had done another image that I was originally going to put on the cover of my book. Let's see if we can find it. I know I posted it on Instagram. I just don't know how long ago. I'm hoping maybe I posted it multiple times, which is a total possibility. It's also possible I did not. Where you at, Dragon Girl? I know she's somewhere. Damn, it's possible I only posted it the once. That's so weird. I don't think I even posted her on Instagram or on ArtStation, which is kind of weird. I think I meant to at one point, and then I was like, let's not remember to. I got sidetracked. It happens. Wow, I really just posted it once. How weird. And I say that because I really like the image, and I'm just kind of surprised that I only posted her the one time. There we are. There we are. Hey. All right, all right. So I'd originally done this. My thought was that it would be kind of a wraparound cover for the book, but that was when the book was kind of going in a very, very different direction than where it has ended up. So, but I like the two of them. Though I think the dragon is going to be bigger this time around. Like I said, we'll have to do some strategic hair placement on her. I love drawing dragons. So in this one, the dragon is actually going to be in front of us. More strategic censoring. Or in front of her, sorry. Between us and her. Which I still think is silly to have to do that, but what are you going to do? I don't make the rules around these parts. Much to my chagrin. You should draw dragons. Everyone should draw more dragons. Draw more dragons, people. That being said, I should draw more dragons too. Oh, is that going to go off the page a little, or camera? That's okay. They're just little talons at the ends of her wings. I just need to get where her feet are going to be, more or less. Yeah, I don't do like a ton of mermaid anymore. I always manage to do some, but I kind of like I don't do all those monthly challenges, you know, where it's like one a day or something. I did those at one point, and I just now that I actually have other things like some kind of story development that I want to do and focus on, it is much harder to just like I don't have the time to just put that stuff aside, you know, and do the monthly challenges. As fun as they are. But I do love doing some stuff for Mermaid. So, and I do like Maraid and Dear Dead Finnegan. They're fun to play with. And then I think I also, might do some, maybe a more serious kind of piece, similar to my other mermaid illustrations that I've done, the full paintings. So I might figure something out for that as well, because those I think those might actually be working their way into this world and story that I've been kicking around and slowly developing. I'm finding a lot of my more serious fantasy stuff is sort of all feeling like it's in that world. So, I'm kind of, if it starts to feel like it's in that world, then I sort of nudge it over that way. All right. The fun thing with dragons is there's no wrong way to draw a dragon. I mean, you could, I guess, in theory, come up with some anatomy that any, animal biologist would be like, no, that is impossible. That would never work, I suppose. But, outside of doing some really crazy shit, right? There's no real wrong way to draw a dragon. I have these tendencies with my dragons. I don't really know where they came from. I've done it for like years and years and years. I mean, since I was a kid, I would draw them with these big, right here, these big jaw muscles like a jaguar kind of, and I'm not really sure where that came from or, when I even started doing it or why. I have to imagine I saw that somewhere. It occurred to me somehow, but I don't really know how. And so anyone that isn't familiar with how I tend to pencil sketch or how I do pencil drawings, I do tend to leave my roughs fairly rough. I don't like to detail the crap out of them. I'm okay with having to make up some stuff along the way. Don't tell them, but I also do that with work sketches. But I think I feel comfortable doing that because, I do enough like ink sketching and stuff that pencils, no matter what, feel pretty forgiving. But the times that I will get specific are just when I really want, I guess, very specific things in there in a very specific way, right? That's that's when I will kind of detail stuff out more. Damn, and of course this is where digital is so nice. I could just like nudge this up a little bit instead of her feet sitting right on the bottom of the page. I don't like that. It feels uncomfortable. But what are you gonna do, right? Um, I kind of saw it coming, and my fault for not avoiding that one. Yeah, it's I don't know. It's kind of fun and in a way like a little liberating, right? Doing very rough roughs. Um General advice for composition. I mean, most of that comes down to I would say paying attention to your value grouping, right? Uh, to me, like for me, that's kind of the main thing where if you can work out your value grouping, then you're generally going to be pretty well off, right? So making sure that your lights and darks aren't too spotty, that there's some kind of um, you know cohesion and flow, mostly to the shadow shapes. You you don't have to sit there and push and pull on both per se, because obviously if you get the shadow shapes working, then the light shapes will fall into place. So I feel like if you can get the shadows working in a way where there's some flow to to the general dark mass or masses that those shadows are creating, then you should be pretty good. And we'll get into that on this, obviously. By the way, I am drawing currently with a Prismacolor 50% cool gray. I'm drawing on Duraline acetate. It's made by Seth Cole. It is translucent, like tracing paper or vellum, which would also work for this. They just have more tooth. I prefer this like buttery smooth surface. But for years I used tracing paper for this same technique. So totally doable and much more affordable. Depending, like if you get Duraline in bulk, then you can get it down to about 80 cents a sheet. Um, but I mean, for me, it was like I got better sketches out of it. So for work, at the time, I think when I made the jump over to Duraline, I was making like 750 or 800 a day, I think was my day rate. So, and if I was thinking, well, I'm doing anywhere from 5 to 8 sketches in a day, so at 80 cents a sheet, it's really not bad, especially if I'm getting better work out of it, then it pays for itself. So, but again, purely a personal preference. I like the super smooth surface because of how I draw. I like to draw a little bit smaller. I'm currently working on 11 by 17 here. I like to draw a little bit smaller and still be able to put in like details, you know? So, yeah, it works for me. Some people I know that have tried it and they're like, nope, I prefer tracing paper, and that's fair. There are times the tooth of tracing paper is fun just because of the texture that it lends to the drawings, you know, especially when you like scan them in and then you want to do some more stuff and you paint them up digitally or whatever. To have that base texture to kind of paint on top of can be a lot of fun. I'm going to tone down the crazy spikes on his nose here. Maybe. We can still get some good ones in there, I guess. Further censoring. Whee! All right. Now I'm going to switch to black. And one thing to keep in mind, for anyone that does kind of want to try out Duraline, it is spelled Duralene, made by Seth Cole. Because there's also a Duralar that is made by Graphics, and it is not the same thing at all. Oh, really? That's funny. Probably because I have it so much on Instagram. That's funny. Does tracing paper stand up to Gamsol? Yeah, actually it does. There's something about tracing paper. Yeah, it works great. And the fact that Gamsol is a solvent, you know, mineral based, mineral spirits, it doesn't like curl up the tracing paper like it would if you were to get water on it, right? So, yeah, tracing paper holds up great. And it's actually like for people that are still doing this kind of technique, I think tracing paper is still the standard. This is just my personal preference. All right, we're going to switch over to our black. I should think about where I want this light coming from. And I feel like maybe they're like front lit. Could be like front but slightly 3/4, you know, slightly more away from us or something. I think that could work. And the reason I like to think about it like now is because I will oscillate between doing line work and then just working in masses, in shadow masses, right? Because from a design standpoint, if I can just mass shadows in, then I'm going to do that. And I'm not going to necessarily detail it all out. So it goes faster that way. I like the look of it, just the design kind of. So yeah, some of the stuff that I have tagged on Instagram, I don't know. You'd think they would have thrown me some free shit by now. I'm like, come on, Prismacolor. You just can't be bothered, can you? They probably don't like it because I'm not relying purely on their pencils to get shit done. It's like this technique, you need that solvent in there. So I bet you that they're probably like, well, no, if he was doing that all just using our pencils, and if he wasn't drawing so many boobs, then maybe. Like, but our pencils are child friendly. Which is true. I used them as a child. Yeah, hopefully I don't, fuck it up. No, the nice thing with this is that even with the Prismacolor, especially uh, on the acetate, but also on tracing paper, you can erase it. So it it's actually quite forgiving. And on the acetate, like you're not going to worry the paper too much, like you could with tracing paper, right? Because this is literally it's just plastic. So you can just erase and erase and erase and erase, and it doesn't matter. And you can take it like right back to a clean surface, especially if you break out the electric eraser. Then it'll pick it right up. I'm gonna switch over to the dragon here pretty soon, just because he's in front, and I don't want to like sit there trying to draw around spikes and shit that I haven't drawn yet. So let's do this right. I don't often do this, but sometimes I do, just because it's easier. But I am not one to often use a straight edge. I prefer to freehand stuff, but Sometimes, you know, if you really want something to be straight, why not? Why not? And I'm not gonna lie, I tend to freehand stuff just mostly because I'm often too lazy to worry about doing it with a straight edge. So I just learned to draw things fairly straight freehand because it was easier. All right. Ooh, woo. No biggie. All right. Dragon. Actually, you'll see me do this a lot, just like kind of bouncing around. Where I realize here that, no, let's get a few more details on her and get the lighting working. Right, just so that I have that grounded. And it's clear where our light is coming from. And maybe get a few more details on her face. This is my little Tombow Mono Zero eraser. I love this thing. Works wonders. I use the hell out of it just, you know, for all the details. Just fine tuning some of these, you know, so I can really get the difference between some of the form shadows and cast shadows. Some of this I won't entirely worry about just yet. I'll often, you know, do my drawing, then flip the page over, do the tone on the back, and then come back and fine tune some of those details where I feel like I need it, because I don't want to do the same level of detail across the entire piece, right? That's not the most interesting way to go about things. You know, for our purposes here, just so it's not going totally off the camera, let's bring the tips of her wings down a little, shall we? And actually, I like how I have them in that original piece. A bit more curved. So. So, how's everybody doing tonight? I'm personally happy to be getting back to doing some pencils. I was almost going to do my sketches for work today digitally, and then I was like, you know what? These are simpler, and I feel like doing pencils today. I don't feel like staring at a screen all day long. So, pencils it was. And then I was like, hey, let's roll this over into the stream. Why not? Good. Right on. Well, I'm glad you're feeling good. I'm feeling good too. I slept so well last night, which for me, I never sleep well Sunday nights, like ever. And so when I woke up and it was almost light outside, and I was like, oh my God, I didn't wake up once. I was stoked. Thank you, Burger. Thank you. I know, that's where, I was kind of like, all right, I love the whole NFT thing, and I'm super stoked about it, and I'm going to do more of that stuff. But at the same time, I'm like, I also love doing traditional stuff. I would like to be able to sell traditional stuff. So let's get back to some of that. I have some things I want to try out too. I just haven't figured out yet what image, but although honestly, I could try it on this one. That'd be kind of fun. Basically, I want to try augmenting Drew Struzan's technique a little bit. I totally get why he did it the way that he did. And I love how drawing heavy it is. It's one of the things I absolutely love about his stuff, because I love drawing, and drawing is oftentimes so much faster than fully painting something. So, digitize my traditional and then burn it. That would be funny. No, never. No, and I'm seeing artists, like traditional artists, doing NFTs of their traditional paintings, but I'm okay with it because they're doing it as like almost like they would limited edition prints, right? And so I'm okay with that, especially if they keep it to like a really small number, 5 to 10 of them. I get it, and because they're already working on like how they can also get the contracts, the blockchain contracts working with traditional pieces. Obviously, there's a lot to figure out there as far as like how can you ensure that that contract follows the piece around, follows the painting around. But once they figure that out, like then it's no longer, the NFT thing will no longer be just digital art, right? It will be able to be tied to traditional pieces too, which would be an absolute game changer. Right now, the whole gallery scene is such a racket. And like I was talking with a friend of mine today about that, and he was expressing interest, and he's a fucking amazing oil painter, you know. But and I was kind of explaining the possibilities of the whole NFT market and just the technology, right? The technology behind it is it has so much potential, and it just needs some figuring out, to make all that stuff really work, make it really possible. But they're working on it, and just the fact that the NFT marketplaces are only taking like 10 to 15%, galleries take 50%. It's like that's and for what? Especially now, a lot of galleries lean on the artist, lean on the amount of social media following that the artist has already. In which case, like if they're not doing that themselves, at a certain point, an artist would be better off just opening up their living room and selling shit right out of their house, and they wouldn't have to give 50%. So there's I don't know, there's a lot of cool possibilities with it. I don't know what all those answers are going to be, and I don't think anyone does yet, or if they do, they're not like, it's not super widespread yet, so who knows. But it'll happen, and like I said, when it does, then it'll no longer be just digital art, and I think when it does go over to traditional art, that'll actually lend more credence to the digital side of things, because now everything really will be in the same marketplace, right? And there are, granted, there are currently certain places where you can say in the contract, like, the first person that buys this gets the original, painting as well, so theoretically you could sell an NFT for, $20,000-$30,000, but what you're actually selling is the physical painting, right? Yeah, so usually in those kinds of places, they don't tend to really take much. But when you're talking about the big name galleries that are, selling paintings for, $100,000, $200,000 a pop, or more, they're all taking 50%. So. And I feel like I don't know. I don't know if there was ever really a point where that made sense, but they could, they could do it, and the galleries were bringing in. They were the ones really bringing the buyers, right? But now, just with the way that social media is, that's not really the case anymore. Like, it's not. You don't have to rely on the galleries for the buyers. So, again, in that regard, like 50% is just way overkill at this point. All right, let's see here. Get these big horns in here. But I mean, there's so much still that they're figuring out, shit that's going to be changing within the NFT side of things. That from the carbon footprint, on down to just how it's used, how the technology is used. And my guess is as more um, coins add smart contract technology, they'll probably also find different ways and more specific uses for it. I'm sure they'll start to specify smart contracts for like, oh, this one is meant for music and this one is meant for this or whatever, simply because of the way the technology works. If they're not already doing that. Because I know the music industry is also really interested in how they can use these different smart contracts, mostly to make sure that I'm sure it's not the labels that are interested, more so the artists interested in really then somehow being able to get some kind of royalties every single time their song is played, right? Because you can automate all that shit. Similar to like if someone resells a piece that they buy from you, a digital piece or an NFT specifically. It's just the fact that that a 10% or whatever you specify gets kicked back to you every time it's resold. 10% of the resale. So yeah. Yeah, it's tough. I mean, one, you get into New York and the cost of living is just ridiculous, right? Two, if the galleries are then taking a bunch of money, I mean, can you imagine you sell a painting for $100,000 and you only take home $50K of that? It's sort of similar, Burger, but it kind of depends on where. The problem with New York is that everyone's getting pushed out further and further, Let me move this over just a little. Even though we're going to have texture and shit over here, but and like I still feel like in LA you get more space. You do get more space for the exorbitant prices that you end up paying. I want to add a little more texture to some of these horns. Yeah. Yeah, that's a tough one. Which city are you in? Is it like a legit city or are we talking a town? I don't remember if you're like... North of Toronto. Oh, damn. Okay. Yeah, that's a tough one because then, like... I mean, that presents its own kind of limitations, which sometimes can be nice, if you want something that's a little more intimate, a place that's a little more personal or whatever. But if that's not really what you're looking for, then it can feel like more of a hindrance than anything else, right? And I'm debating if I want to go in the original one of these two. He's got almost like more of a leathery kind of skin, which I might stick with still. I'm debating. Thank you. Thank you. I do tend to have like particular shapes, I think, that I tend to do for dragons. I'll switch them up every now and then, but I do tend to. What I might do. And only doing this because I don't like actually having the feet literally sitting on the bottom of the page. I am not one to usually hide feet because I actually enjoy drawing feet. But I think we might just get some kind of, low hanging fog and atmosphere and stuff going. Just because, again, compositionally, like, it's not a good idea to have something sitting right on the bottom of the page of the frame, It's not a good thing. All right, let's yeah, and for the bodies, I always tend to just... Honestly, not even just the bodies. A lot of the shapes, I tend to lean heavily toward, like, big cat anatomy. I'm gonna get some of that liquid fire happening with his mouth. So I think the teeth are going to be fairly silhouetted against that. I am currently also welcome Razatron and Arthurigus. What's up, my friend? I am currently working on Duraline acetate. It is a translucent paper, which we will find out here very quickly about that. And it allows me to work on both sides. But you could also do this with tracing paper or vellum. I used to do this exact stuff with those papers. I tend to do tracing paper because vellum to me was too expensive for not enough return. In that Duraline is much smoother than even vellum is, right? So, but it's about the same price per sheet. So it just seemed like vellum was too close in tooth to tracing paper, so it didn't make sense to spend that much more and use vellum. Someone asked, Dat Boy AA, how long have I been sketching? When you ask that, are you meaning right now? Or do you mean in general in my life, how long have I been sketching? Is that one, Razatron, is that one a translucent vellum? Because not all vellum is, right? Obviously for this you would want translucent vellum. Well, Dat Boy, then in that case, I've been honestly like as soon as I was old enough to pick up a drawing utensil, I started drawing. You know, I'm one of those, and I just never stopped. I never stopped. So it's been a while. Let's say I've been sketching professionally, like as a sketch artist in advertising. This is currently my 14th year professionally as a sketch artist. So, yeah. All right. We'll get back to more details after we block in the tone, like the full tone, right? So let's do that. I'll probably have to... Oh, I didn't consider how far over I am on this, but that's okay. That is okay. We'll just have to move our drawing surface around so that I'm not cropping shit off all weird. All right. Bring these guys back over here. Dat Boy, I turned... How old did I turn? Last month I turned 41. So, yeah. I'm gonna mix some stuff here, by the way. So for those of you that were here from the beginning, Remember we did the rough with the 50% gray, 50% cool gray Prismacolors, right? These guys. And then we were just drawing with black. I'm going to mix dark brown and cool gray to give it a bit of warmth. But then the cool gray will help kind of darken it down a bit, right? I don't want to go too heavy on the cool gray because I want that warmth to come through. Also, for anyone who wants to know, I use an X-Acto Magnum sharpener. Does a great job getting, that kind of a pencil tip. So it's pretty awesome. And now so I'm just using a shop towel, right? These blue, actually, hang on. Switch over to the one that's already got warm stuff on it. Right, just these blue paper towels. You can get them at almost any hardware store. They're literally called shop towels. And then in here I have Gamsol, which is mineral spirits. Typically used in oil painting, but works great to melt the wax in Prismacolors as well. So I just put some on here. Rub it around. And we get all melty. Right? And it dries fairly quick, especially because it's warm right now, so it'll usually dry in a couple minutes. But I'll kind of keep messing with it a little bit because I actually want some texture. Now you can see if I just kept doing this, I could get it super smooth, right? Where it'll look like computer tone because it'll be so smooth. But I do want a bit of texture, and I want to kind of pump up some of these values a little. I'm just bringing in some black to help darken some things here. Oh, right on. I love that. I love that I come up when people search for Duralene. That makes me so happy. I am not self-taught. Because RG Villain, this is translucent paper. See? So actually the drawing is on the front, and I'm doing the tone on the back. And that's kind of the benefit and the strength of doing it this way, is that it's very forgiving, right? So I can do all this stuff, and I don't have to worry about fucking up my my drawing, right? And then you'll see I'm going to erase out the lights because, on the Duralene or on tracing paper, again, you can erase the Prismacolor. So when I do pencil sketches at work, this is the technique that I'll use. Though I'll do it only in grayscale. I don't bring colors into it, but I'll use this because it's fast. Like, it's really fast to tone this stuff, and in many cases, it's faster for me to do this than it is to do it on the computer. The only difference is the computer is way easier to change, right? You can fine tune stuff, move things around before you ever throw the tone on it. So in that regard, computer maybe is faster or easier, but this stuff works pretty well. Plus, you get a nice built-in texture with it, right? Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little bit more Gamsol onto this because I want to get texture in this background, right? I don't want it to just be totally smooth. I want some kind of like motion and stuff happening in here. Right, so that's where just literally putting like a drop of Gamsol on the paper towel for this part. Yeah, Razotron, that's actually a good question. It does. The Gamsol pretty much cleans any of those oils. Yeah, not like, there have been times like when I'm working in my moleskin or something, especially if I'm working in ink, and then I go over a spot where my fingers were sitting for a while, and then all of a sudden it's like my fingerprints are in the ink, which is actually kind of fun sometimes. So nowadays I try and almost use that in a way as much as I can. But let's try and get it to not quite look like we were painting around some clips. But yeah, I mean, this is a super fun process, and this part, like, this is the bulk of the work right here. Now it's just like coming in and erasing areas out. I'm using a kneaded eraser here. If I want to go harder into the lights, I will use literally a harder eraser, either a pink pearl. I'll use the Mono Zero, little Tombow Mono Zero for details. And I will use the Sakura electric eraser when I really just want like a pinpoint white, and like I said, we're gonna get his kind of liquid flames. I guess technically that would be like napalm, huh? Dripping in his mouth, but we want this brightness, right? the Sumo Grip Black Eraser. No, it's not. I feel like someone mentioned that a while back, and I think I meant to look into it, but didn't. Or I saw someone mention it in one of their own posts or something. Something like that, but I don't remember. No, what is the Sumo Grip? And should it be in my supplies? I love messing around with different art supplies. It's a lot of fun. Let's get that. So like I could use this some more. And actually I am going to use it on the background here because I want the background still to be a bit lighter than they are. So let's it'll add a bit more texture as well. In which case it is best to go with the grain, right? If I started going against it, it would get really noisy. Or across it, I should say. Yeah, the tone, that's what's fun with this stuff, is that you can get it right back to white. And with what I prefer with the acetate over tracing paper is that it's way more durable. I guess that's why they call it Duraline. Like you can just erase and erase and erase, and you're not gonna start chewing up the paper, right? Like you will with tracing paper. Although tracing paper, pretty resilient. You know, I don't think I ever ran into issues with like chewing up the paper when I was using tracing paper for this, for work. I don't think I ever had a problem with it. Oh, thanks, RG. Yeah, I think this is just from Grove Made, actually. But yeah, I dig. It's just simple brass. I put my own band on it, though, because I didn't like the band that they sent it with. So I just got a band off of Amazon or something and swapped it out. Their band felt kind of like, I don't know, sort of thin and flimsy. Even though it was leather, it just felt cheap. You know, it's not like it's a super expensive watch or anything. I don't remember how much they go for, but it's not like a really pricey one. But I felt like it should have had a better, a better band than it did. Cool. I'll have to check that out, Razatron. Like I said, I do like messing around with new supplies. I'm going to bring a little bit of color into this piece too, by the way. For color, I much prefer the Faber-Castell polychromos. They just have a much nicer color palette to choose from. You know, especially within the certain sets of colors. Like if you're not going to drop money on like every single color, which I wouldn't recommend because you're not going to use every single color. So the 60 color set, I think it's 60. Yeah, the 60 color set of polychromos has such a beautiful palette compared to like the 72 color set of Prismacolors, which I think the palette is just atrocious. It has all these colors I would never use. Plus polychromos are more archival. You know, they've been around a lot longer, so they've figured some stuff out. And when I say more archival, I mean like more of their colors are archival compared to Prismacolor. When I say more of their colors, I mean almost every single one of their colors is like a high rating for archival quality. So, something to consider, I think, when you're working with them. And what I like is that I can keep the color subtle, you know, and it'll give it this kind of aged look that's really fun to play with. You know, so I don't go like super heavy on the color. In some spots where I want it to really pop, you know, I will. But I'm just hitting some of these bigger light shapes, but I'm going to switch over to that little mono zero pretty quick here. Start getting some little deets. Grab our brush here too, so we don't have to keep swiping on the. Of course, I'm still going to swipe on it because it's a habit. And the mono zero, I'll use it just like a pencil, you know. Kind of treat my lights almost like I'm drawing them in with a white pencil, which I could do on the front as well. And I might try and pop a little more stuff out when we switch back to the front. The ink tents? What is that? I don't know this stuff. What is the ink tents? Or is that like Inktober, but they're doing their own thing? Get some of her jewelry here. So this is where I can kind of just literally like scribble in details. I mean, okay, I shouldn't say literally scribble because I'm not scribbling. I'm still being very deliberate. Like, it's not random, and I know what kinds of details I'm pulling out. Figuratively scribbling, literally figuratively scribbling. Yeah, so it doesn't really take much to start to get a nice feeling of detail into stuff. And it's all layers, you know? And I think that's kind of what really starts to capture the detail is just doing this layering of processes, you know? So it's like there's no one phase in this that needs to be super, super detailed and refined, right? And that's what I love about it, is that we're just kind of, it's fast, and yet we're easing our way into a detailed finish, or at least something that feels detailed, even though I still just indicate the shit out of everything, because that's just how I do. What are you gonna do? Inktense line of water-soluble ink pencils. Oh, like the watercolor pencils? I think I have a set of those somewhere. I think I got them but I think I got them like years ago, because I saw someone doing something really cool with them, and then I just never got around to doing it. Story of my life. Dude, that looks cool. I'm gonna try that. Shit, I don't have time to try that. I got work to do. That's why my apartment looks like a fucking art store. Because I buy art supplies, but I never throw away art supplies. But at the same time, I'm amazed how often I end up coming back to those supplies at some point, right? And I think I learned that kind of the hard way, right? Where I did get rid of stuff, and then because I'd been trucking it around for, in some cases, like a few years, and just hadn't used it, and then I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna throw this away. And I threw it away, and then usually not like 2 months later, I was like, damn it, I wish I had that thing. Now I have to go rebuy it. So there have been things that I've rebought like 2 or 3 times, and now I just know better. You know? I know better than to throw stuff away. Certain things I will. You know, there's certain things that say like don't age well. Certain paints and stuff, if you let them sit there for too long, they're not gonna act the way you want them to act. Depending on how you store them, I should say. It's not guaranteed that they'll get all fucked up, but they might. Alright, so I feel like we've got some of this. Debating how much I want to go, like, if I want to go lighter on some stuff. I do want to get heavier on some of his specular highlights. Willie, what's up, dude? How's it going, man? I am glad you could make it. We still have a little ways to go on this. I'm gonna reinforce. Whoa, let's not knock the microphone around. How about that? I'm gonna reinforce some of the shadows, by the way. But what do I want to reinforce them with? Do I want to do brown or gray? That's the question. Let's do brown. Let's put a little more heat in there. And it's just to kind of reinforce some of these shadow shapes. Right? Did you say I have a plethora? I'm pretty sure I learned it from Three Amigos also. Reinforcing some of this silhouette. Let's do... I have been great as well. Today has been a good day. I slept really well last night, which I was saying earlier, never happens to me on a Sunday night. For whatever reason, I just never sleep well. And it's not like I'm stressed about Monday or even really thinking about it, because I've been doing this stuff long enough that whatever. I don't care. Not that I don't care, but it doesn't stress me out. It's just part of the week. But for some reason, I just never sleep well on Sunday nights. But I slept really, really well last night, so I'm very happy about that. All right, let's bring some color in, and it'll be subtle. We're not gonna we're not gonna go crazy on the color. I'm not trying to really paint it up, but we've got our, let's see, we've got our set of polychromos, our 60 color set. So yes, she's a redhead. By the way, for anyone joining us, I am doing another rendition of this sketch I did back in January of 2019, apparently. Not another rendition, but I just felt like drawing these two again, though I made the dragon way the fuck bigger. Because dragon. And one thing I love about this technique, it's similar to how I work when I'm painting, in that I like to have something like a ground, usually a warm ground, that kind of helps unify the whole palette, right? So that's one thing I really like about this approach, is that with this unifying tone, it just kind of brings everything together, kind of tightens stuff up a bit, which is fun. It's fun. Let's see if I can remember what I used for her wings. I don't think I'm gonna remember exactly what I did. I think it was a little cooler than that. I may have mixed some stuff. This, what is this? Naples ochre. That's probably what it was. Used this for the markings on her. And you'll see when we flip this back around, like all this stuff will get really subtle. It's always like a bit of a shock, and sometimes I'm like, oh, I actually kind of like it more. Like, more, just being stronger, the color, but I don't know. You can always amp it up too on the other side when you flip it back around, right? You can always kind of reinforce the color where you want it, which I do often. And let's get So I treat it almost like wait, who gave us a follow? Ice Chili, thanks for the follow. Yeah, kind of. You know, what's interesting is like I had drawn these two, and then I needed to do one more sketch for my book just to kind of, because I think we were going to end up with a weird sort of blank page, and it was either do a new piece or bring back an old piece that we'd cut, and I was like, nah, fuck it, I'll do a new one. And so I did another one, which I could probably actually show, because again, strategic censoring, but let me... somewhat white sheet of paper. Sorry, it's going to be sideways because it's a vertical piece, right? So I did another piece. You'll just have to turn your heads sideways. But this one is like, she almost looks like she's an older one of like the same race or something, right? She just looks more like taller and elongated. But here she's killing a dragon. And so we kind of thought like, interesting, like this is an interesting dynamic. What I don't know what this story is, but it's now I'm like intrigued, you know? Are they dragon slayers? But then is this like a weird TVMA How to Train Your Dragon story, or you know, or is it something else, or is that other girl like is she like the bad guy and not supposed to be killing dragons or something? I don't know. I don't know. But there's something intriguing to me within all this stuff, so that's why I was like, I kind of want to draw them again. Because then as I'm drawing, I start to, stories kind of start to pop up in my head, in my brain pictures, in my head movies. By the way, watched Tropic Thunder again not too long ago. I love that movie, but holy crap, that movie would not fly these days. Which is so weird to think about because I feel like it's not that old. And yet, times have changed a lot. Hey, thanks, Ice Chili. I'm having fun with it. Honestly, I'm just happy that I'm doing pencils again. Even though, like, I love doing the digital stuff too, but I don't know. It's one of those things where even though I could put just as much time into a digital piece as I could into a traditional, into an analog piece, just the tactile aspects of analog, it's so hard to beat that for satisfaction, you know? That's why for me, I always say that digital is about the end product, right? When you want to get to the result, and that's the whole point, then digital, like, you can't beat it. Digital is the best. But when you want a journey, when you want the creation of the piece to be an experience and a journey, then you're not going to beat analog for that. So that's where, for me, it just kind of depends on my mood. Ooh, an explanation on values. That's a super broad topic. I feel like you would maybe need to get a little more specific, just because values apply to everything, right? Strictly speaking, values apply to lights and darks. So that's where, if you can get a little more specific with what aspect of values, then I could probably go into some detail. I mean, the basic thing about values, right, and the thing we always need to keep in mind are the 5 types of light, right? And I say it probably almost every single stream, but because we have to keep that stuff in mind, right? So when we think of the 5 types of light, which is lights, midtones, darks, accents, and reflected lights, then usually that's the stuff we always want to consider with values, as far as where is this portion falling, right? Are we working in the lights? Are we working in the midtones? Are we working in the shadows? Right? Because if you're working in the shadows, then the lightest part in the shadows should always be darker than the darkest lights, right? And so that's why it's important to kind of keep all that stuff in mind as far as what part we're working on. And then accents would refer to highlights and low darks, right? Light and dark accents. And then reflected light. And reflected light should never be as bright as the light source, right? So reflected light is within the shadows, right? So everything that's falling in the shadows should always be darker than everything that's falling in the lights. The time that you'll get brighter stuff within the shadows is if you have some kind of a secondary light source, right? But that would be like a fill light or something, not actual reflected light. And you're only really going to get that in very specific scenarios in the real world or in a photo setup, right? A photo shoot. Where they want all the details everywhere, so they're gonna add fill lights, right? In a natural setting, with the exception of some urban settings with street lamps and multiple light sources, all that shit. For the most part, you're just not gonna deal with actual fill lights. Right. The people in the woods. Oh, the creeper, the axe murderer dude. That one. No, I think I get what you're saying. And yeah, what you're talking about is, I mean, one, you may or may not be happy to know it's not easy. And that was something that I had to very consciously push myself to master, right? For anyone wondering, this is the piece that Willie is referring to. You'll have to click through to see the whole thing, but so with that, it's all about control, right? Reserving your lights, and it's almost like honestly, you almost have to get a little masochistic with it. Because our tendency is like, oh, we want to push here and push into there, but we have to make ourselves not do that, right? So, one, I didn't want to go to true black on it. Those black bars helped. I believe I had those on even while I was painting, so that I knew to never go that dark with it, right? Because I wanted to bracket my values. And then you get your light source in there, which is that like shitty little lantern, and that way nothing else will be as bright as that. So you bracket your values, and to basically be working within that range, right? You have your brightest bright in there, you have your darkest dark, and it's often good to set that stuff up, right? And now, with that lantern, depending on what kind it is, we could even go a little darker on that, and it still wouldn't look like it was too dark, right? But so that stuff, it all takes just like conscious control, and there isn't really ever a point where you can just kind of go on autopilot. You always have to be checking your values, checking them against each other, right? So like that, table, when I'm looking at it now, and that table could have actually probably gone darker. You know, if I think of like shitty picnic tables out in like remote campsites, they're actually usually pretty damn dark. Um, and oh, that's cool, Martest. I like doing creepy shit like that sometimes. It's fun. Um, yeah, so you know, just with the values, it's called value control for a reason, you know, and it really does take some patience, some back and forth. There, and that's the main thing to keep in mind is like you have to just constantly be checking it, and if it's not right, change it. There is a certain amount of just kind of through experience, you kind of learn where, you know, what you can get away with changing for compositional reasons or what you have to change for, let's say, real world reasons, right? Meaning if there are things that we know to be a dark value, then we have to pay attention to that, right? But sometimes we can nudge that stuff around for compositional reasons, and if it makes the composition better, people generally don't question it. Yeah, that's thank you for that hydrate, tired tiffers, and thank you. I'm glad you love it. So some of that, Willie, comes down to where our visual acuity will sometimes outpace our physical abilities, right, with art, our technical abilities. Basti Jr., thank you for the follow. And Tired Tiffers, thank you for the follow. I appreciate that. And, you know, that is often the case where we can see what's happening in a painting and we can't always execute it ourselves, right? And, I mean, that happens to me all the time. It's why I'm constantly studying. You know, I'm a fan of the old master illustrators and stuff, so I'm constantly looking at, you know, mostly Dean Cornwell, but also there's a lot of shit that Howard Pyle did that I absolutely love. Harvey Dunn, you know, all those guys, and just seeing stuff like the more I learn, the more I see that they were doing, and it gets frustrating because I'm like, no, I thought I was like somehow kind of catching up in some way, and then it turns out that all I find out is that I have more to learn, you know, and so sometimes it's just a matter of kind of just working through it, being patient, and just keep pushing and knowing that at a certain point your technical skills will kind of catch up with the stuff that you're seeing in the art that you're paying attention to, you know. Stretch. I'm okay with that. Oh, I'm gonna stand up and stretch as well. And we can admire this shirt from Cryomera, by the way. She does awesome stuff. If you guys don't follow Cryo, you should, because she's a badass. Oh, touch those toes. Touch those toes. Always good to stretch out when you're sitting all day. Good to stretch out the backs of those thighs, the hamstrings, and the rear quads and stuff. Helps balance out the back chain muscles a bit. Thank you for that stretch. Yeah, dude, she's awesome. I love her shit. Just looking to see if I want to get any more. I don't want to overdo it on these. So we're gonna get our glowiness. Because I don't like to go too total white on stuff. Oh, before I forget, also, let's get her eyes. Yeah, I don't like to go to total white or total black on anything. That's like the traditional painter in me, you know, like white, true white will just flatten stuff out like nothing else. And there are times you want that, right? There are times you want the background to just flatten out, in which case, cool. Use white, you know, but those are for very specific reasons generally. And not something you want to abuse at all. Thank you, Willie. Yep, Burger, we are just like, it's my usual thing of just kind of nudging in color, right? On top of a kind of unifying ground. I've found that's just the way I generally love to work. And then we'll reinforce some of this color on the front too, because I'll do a bit more in the line work as well on the front. So we're gonna flip this back over, and we'll see all the lines pop forward, and the color and stuff will kind of sit back a bit when we flip this back. Let's get this stuff off. And so then this is where we can always reinforce the colors where we want them, right? So for example, And that's what I mean when I say like you get so used to looking at it with the more saturated color that you flip it back over and you're like, oh, but I miss some of the like color. But then it is a good idea to just let your eyes adjust, because this has a really nice look by the end. I wanted to clean up some of this stuff. Let's do. Of course you got a double dip. I know at one point I was gonna maybe switch to Tuesdays because honestly, like Tuesdays would probably be more dependable for me for actually being able to stream. Mondays, often, I'm like trying to get the whole team going on stuff on Mondays, and that takes a lot of time. And then I also have to get my own work done and all that stuff. But I do a Zoom with my family on Tuesdays, and it's kind of the only time that we can all do that. So it's like, man, all right, I guess I won't stream on Tuesdays. My brother's really good about talking to my mom often. I'm really bad at it because everything goes out the window, when I'm busy on stuff, which is most of the time. Like time just goes out the window, and before I know it, it's like 2 weeks have gone by and I haven't, talked to my family at all. And so that's why I'm like, no, if we don't do the Zoom, then yeah, it would be hard for me to keep up and keep in touch. Right? I feel so bad about it. Like I'm glad my brother can do that. Seriously, I think he and my mom talk like multiple times a week. I'm just like, damn, dude, I can't do that. All right, let's get back into our line work. All right. And this is really where I start to kind of not I pull out details more than anything. I don't go back and detail out everything. It's just pulling out certain details that we want. If we want to reinforce, some cast shadows and stuff. Any form shadows. Contours. Yeah, no, I know the feeling. I'm also fully aware that I'm like an artaholic, you know. I am just content to do art all the fucking time. That's why it's good that I have tiny girlfriend to kind of pull me back into the real world. Otherwise, like, I really would, like, I'd be content most of the time not even seeing people, just doing art. So you'll see I'm not like pulling out every single detail. I will rely heavily on contour to kind of like silhouette basically to describe shapes for me. I don't always want. I don't always need to or want to get into a ton of interior detail, right? There are times that I will, and there are times that it's necessary or useful or whatever. But that silhouette goes a long way toward describing stuff so that you don't have to. Yeah, I mean, you know, at least though she's an artist too, and she is very busy, so she totally understands. You know, during the week we're both just slammed with stuff, so we actually don't really see each other during the week, except Wednesdays we go for a walk. But yeah, we don't really see each other during the week. So weekends. But even then, I still manage to get like some art done on the weekend. Not as much as I used to, partly because I don't feel as much of a need to always be doing it. But yeah, if I do go like 2 days without doing some kind of art, I do get a bit antsy. So, like I said, I'm an artaholic. But I've been drawing pretty much every day for 21 years. I mean, there were times in there where I did go like 2 or 3 weeks without drawing, and it was painful coming back. Like all this shit that I knew how to do, and I was like, why is it not working? This sucks. I suck. So that's why I never go that long without drawing anymore. I just can't do it. do want to refine his values a bit more. And there are a couple ways I could do that. I don't need to use black for it. Yeah. By the way, I'm switching over to a 70% cool gray. What I like about this one is that it's dark enough that it will darken the shadows, but not so dark that it'll get out of control, right? And because it's lighter, it kind of like, meaning lighter than the black, it sort of like smooths that stuff out a bit. So I will use 70% gray often to just start to unify my shadow shapes more. And kind of smooth all that stuff out a bit. Smooth out the rough edges in there. And just kind of get all this stuff working a bit more gracefully, if I can. Back to black here. Just want to pull out some deeper darks. I could also do this with the 90% cool gray, but whatever. Black is fine. Some of this, I might actually want to go back and lighten some of that fire, get a little more like heat emanating in there. So I might flip this back over for a second and do that real quick. Let's see. Did I miss? I heard a ding. What did I miss? I missed something. And I feel like I missed something that's not showing up on my little activity feed. A sub? Who subbed? And why isn't it showing up? Stupid activity feed. Lucas, thank you for the sub. Whoever just subbed, thank you for the sub. I appreciate that. Let's bring some white in here for a little bit more texture fun. That's weird. I wonder why it's not showing up on the activity feed. And I don't think that was my usual sub chime. But I could be wrong. Alright, I kind of feel like I'm just noodling now. Might call them done for tonight. Honestly, I wasn't sure I'd get through the whole thing, but, 2 hours, 17 minutes, it's not too shabby. You can see it's a pretty, potentially a fairly quick method for getting to, at least a more finished result than if we were to just try to do this just straight up in pencil, right? We can get a larger spread of values much faster doing this. The kind of more cohesive spread of values. Depending on the look, right? Obviously, if we could go straight up in pencils, it would just have a lot more like texture and shit like that. Might not be what we want. This gives the impression of being more finished, right? Might bring a little bit more color into those horns. Bring out the kind of that red, a little bit of that blood red kind of vibe. Bring our boy forward a little bit. One good thing to note is oftentimes you have the most saturation and detail in the midtones, right? For whatever that's worth. There are infinite amounts of ways to simplify that, but it is something to keep in mind, at least when giving the impression of rendering. And it kind of helps us simplify things too. Especially if we think about Howard Pyle and Harvey Dunn's sort of methodology, or them pointing out that the shadows carry the drawing and the lights carry the color, right? So if we think about that, we can go much simpler in the shadows with color and keep most of the color play within the lights, or more so within the midtones. We'll have a little bit of that happening in the lights, but not as much, because we won't generally get as saturated in the lights. Word. Aloria, thank you for the follow. Why did the follow pop up? But the sub didn't. It was a weird sub. It's like a weird secret sub. Hello, Aloria. How's it going? I'm trying to think if I have, if I want to do more stuff on this, but I don't really know what else I would do right now at this point. Unless, part of me wants to reinforce some of the, I don't want to do too much, right? Because at a certain point, yes, I could always erase something, but then I'm erasing layers of detail, right, at this point. But I might reinforce some of this stuff. Some of his markings. We are very chill here. He is not wrong. Mixing in a tad bit of slightly warmer red in with the cool. But so I'm also considering, because there are some digital paintings I want to do, but I'm thinking about what I want the end results to look like, and I may actually start them this way. I might start them on Duraline, just so I have some built-in texture that I can play with. Because I do want them to end up having a little bit of a classical look. So that might be a good thing to do. Might see if I can get one of those, kind of get the concept fleshed out for Thursday. Assuming work doesn't get crazy. We got a ton of shit due on Friday. But, you know, so far so good, but that can change very quickly. All it takes is for one client to be like, hey, can we get this set of sketches earlier? Or can we also get this? And then our smooth schedule goes out the door. We're just kind of nitpicking here now, by the way. I might, there's a chance we may kind of call it slightly earlier today, maybe. Because otherwise I'll just keep nitpicking and there's kind of no point. So we have to reinforce our low-hanging frog. Weird. I feel like I will probably call this done for what it is, you know? I'll have to figure out a strategic way to get some mermaids on for Mermay on Twitch, right? Because they don't like nudity, but I can't do shell bras. I can't do it. It's just weird, and I just don't think mermaids would give a shit. I don't think they would do that, and it doesn't seem comfortable. Shells have jagged edges, and it's just a bad idea all around. Mermaid's fun. I mean, I don't do daily. You know, I don't have time to do that at this point. But I do like to throw in some pieces because mermaids, you know, mythology. Shit's fun. Fun. All right. I feel like half the little things I'm doing right now, you may or may not be able to actually see the effect on stream. Some of it gets really subtle. And it's just I have this thing with adding usually 3 to 4 layers of interest in any piece that I do, right? Because I want it to be interesting to look at, and I don't want it to just be like, oh, look at it for, you know, 10 seconds and you, cool, you got everything. You know, that's like, I don't want that from my art. I want it to be able to hold more attention than that, right? So that's why I will tend to kind of layer up, add a few key details, right? I'm not going to do it everywhere, but I want to often get it in like some key spots. Just something to kind of pull you in a little deeper, and then maybe you notice another layer of detail, and then you get pulled in a little deeper, and, you know, getting into second, third read stuff. With this one, it's not like, there's not so much of that. I didn't get that small into the details, but I could if I wanted to. Some beads in her hair. I feel like she needs beads in her hair. And honestly, if she was flying around with her hair loose like that, dude, it would be such a tangled mess. Whatever. We're not gonna think that much about it. Yeah, Viscera Obscura has it. Duraline. It's an acetate made by Seth Cole. It's similar to tracing paper, right? So it is translucent, which is a little harder to see now, but you can see it. So, you know, we did the line work on the front, and then all the tone and color is actually on the back of it, so we don't mess up our line work. And I'm just kind of reinforcing the line work and some of the color back on the front now. So, yeah, it's a fun, very forgiving way of working, and something that I do professionally as a sketch artist in advertising. This is one of the techniques, a kind of tried and true technique that they've done for many a year, long before I was born. But they tend to use tracing paper. I prefer Duraline because it's much smoother. It has very, very little tooth to it. I like that, but some people love the heavier tooth of tracing paper, in which case, more power to them. I used to use tracing paper, but I always felt like I was fighting against it a little bit. And then when I found Duraline, I was like, hey, fuck tracing paper. I think I gave all my tracing paper away. I was like, nope, don't need it, don't want it. But again, personal preference. I like the really smooth surface. It's not for everybody. And I don't like it for everything either. There are certain things that I like having some tooth for, like if I'm working in graphite, I prefer a bit more tooth in the paper, or charcoal, right? But not for this stuff. I like a cleaner kind of look. It is basically like if you had two layers. Kind of two layers. You could think of it as like almost having 4 multiply layers in a way. Or let's say overlay layers. 2 multiply layers and 2 overlay layers. Just because, like, okay, if I do the drawing on the front, I can still go over the drawing with some color and stuff without messing up the drawing, right? Or without lightening the lines unless I push really hard with the color, in which case it will lighten the black that I use for the lines. But yeah, like being able to work on both sides, it's super forgiving. You can do your drawing, and then the stuff on the back here can get really loose. it, you know, now you're seeing it as I got a bit more tighter here with it, but it it can be really loose if you want the drawing to do all the heavy lifting. I like to kind of do a bit of both. Um, so, you know, I will get a bit tighter on the tone in places, but like, it's like I don't know if there are areas on this one where I did get. I feel like this one, you know, you see some of the looseness in here. You know, it's not like the shapes are not really hard. They're not really carved out. And even, you know, in this area, on the back, it gets a little softer, right? And I can do that because I know that the line work will crisp things up where I need it to, you know. So, but there are times I'll get really loose on the tone on the back because I know that I just have to pop one line in and it'll just crisp up an edge. So, oh, thanks, Aloria. I appreciate that. Oh, Instagram. Love-hate relationship with that one, right? I feel like 3 years ago we all probably loved it, and then they were like, hey, check out this new algorithm we developed to fuck everything up for you. Thanks, guys. Super dope. I almost want to get a little bit of color variation in the horns. But I don't know if it'll show up. It's the only thing. Oh, it does a little bit. It's kind of cool. It's subtle, but it's there. All right. All right. I think we're going to call it there. I see. Yeah, I started using Instagram, I think back in 2012 or something like that. And like between, let's see, from 2000, the end of 2016 to the beginning of 2018, I went from 6,000 followers to like 130,000 followers or something. And I think I currently have 122,000. So basically, when they did that algorithm change at the beginning of 2018, it was like psh, someone flipped a switch, and all of a sudden, it just like psh, everything just tanked for me, which really sucks. Yeah, I think I'm okay with this. We're gonna call it. Yeah, it's a grind. It's a grind. Not gonna lie. I'm assuming Autumn is still on, right? Or did Autumn bail? Is Autumn done? What? What a wimp. Oh, okay. Oh no, he's not gonna raid me, is he? Because I'm about to bail. I say as I call him a wimp for bailing early. Oh, maybe he will. Okay, cool. Cool. Let's go bother Dave Greco then. Hopefully he's not about to bail, but maybe he is. But that's okay. We're gonna raid Dave Greco. because I haven't seen his stuff in a long time, and it looks like he's doing something cool. Oh, right on. Yeah, I'm digging the elf thing that he's working on. So let's go ahead and do that, whether autumn is or not. Thank you everybody for hanging out while I got through the pencils. It was nice to bring these back again. So we'll be back on Thursday, hopefully 7 p.m. Pacific time. I will keep y'all posted on that. All right, everybody, have a great night. Peace.